All right, hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for a webinar on crop planning. So my name is Ben Munson and I'm a senior technology specialist with FarmQA. I've been with the company since the founding of it in 2015. And yeah, happy to be here with you to walk you through one of our new features. We built a crop planning module here for the rollout of spring kind of 2024 was our intention. And so with that, we're going to showcase what that looks like. And it's actually a feature. If you logged into your FarmQA account, you wouldn't see by default, so we can get it turned on for you if you'd like to play with this feature and start using it yourself. But it is a brand new feature on our side as of now. So with that said, I will be walking you through what that functionality looks like. We have the ability to create what we call plan templates. And so you could create a corn plan that might contain 3 different sprays throughout the year. You could then bulk apply that to a series of fields. Our core value with that is you could then get a shopping list or roll up product total across all your fields for a plan itself. And that you could give to a grower. You could adjust the pricing in that, use that to make your purchasing decisions with a retailer. And then the added benefit of the plan and doing the plan in FarmQA is in season, we make it easy to take action with that plan. So converting a plan to a recommendation when you're in the field real time. And then if you want to use us for the dispatching, the work order side, you can convert that into task and see the status along the way. So very excited about this new feature and looking for feedback along the way. So with that, I'm going to jump in. We're going to go with a live demo. So with that, I'm going to jump over to FarmQA Controller, where I've got some things to showcase. Before I get too far, within Microsoft Teams, the platform we're in, you can post questions, and our intention is to take those at the end. So please, as I'm going throughout here, send your questions, and then we will review those, and we'll go through them at the end. And yeah, so with that, hopefully everybody's seeing Munson Farms in the top left. We are going to start out with some basic setup type things. And so I'm going to go into the settings or gear icon of my account. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank growing season that we can use just to showcase to all you folks how this would start from scratch. So I already have an existing 2024 season, but instead I'm going to create with this plus button down here a new growing season. And I'm going to do it with this bottom option, which would be a clean slate, no crop assignments at all. And I'm going to call it 2024. We'll call it temp. So with this, I want to make sure to set this growing season to active. And then with that, you can optionally put in dates with that if you'd like to say, we're going to run the season January 1 through the end of the year. So with that, now we just have a blank slate that I can be demoing the new crop plan in without interfering with any older data. To prove that point that it's a clean slate, so I will go into my map view, and from here in the top right, I will toggle into my 2024 temp growing season. And the points we made here, no crop assignments, kind of a clean season here to start with. With that said, the building blocks of our crop plan are going to revolve around advice and our existing products and mixes concept. And so to start here, I'll do a little bit of review on what we're looking at in FarmQA if you're new to the system. So within the advice tab on the left, we have existing written recommendations and spray records. And that's where, as you get to use a program, you'll spend a lot of time, but the setup type steps are actually following that. So kind of tabs 3 through 5 here. So within the products, these are your building blocks that will ultimately flow through into a plan. And so with this, within your account, you likely have the products set up that you want to be using throughout the year. But as a refresher, you can always add additional products. So let's say you're going through the plan steps and say, I've got a new adjuvant this year, or I've got a new herbicide I'm going to be using with this grower or for yourself. So you come to this new product tab, and you could be importing. The most common would be from the EPA if you're in the United States. In Canada, you might want to go new product, or actually we can bulk upload from an Excel if you have one. Regardless, for now, we'll just say we're going to add a new product, and we'll search and look for Endura. At this point, we can find the product that we want, and my kind of trick here is to look at the EPA number, and if you see a state label, you probably want to go to the one that's more of the regional or the national label. You can then add that product. It's now in your FarmQA account. So with that, it will populate with some basic details. So if I find my Endura product, you can see it pulled in the active ingredients. It will list out the manufacturer, the EPA number, the label itself, and you can start putting in some rates and some other defaults that you want to have configured with that product. So with that, I mean, that's probably review for a lot of you, but that's kind of really the building block, phase one. Phase two is you can set up mixes. And with this, mixes are going to be a time saver when you're creating plan templates. And so I will quickly walk through kind of creating a mix, and then we're going to utilize that finally in a plan. So with that, it's working our way up into a plan step. But in this case, I'm going to work with a crop that I don't actually have in my demo account, just so, again, it's a clean slate. So we're going to deal with oats in this case. So we're going to say that this is an oat pre-emerge burn down. So with that, you can set your water volume, maybe 10 gallons an acre. You can, well, before I go through that, you can put optional instructions. So if you want to make a comment about whatever you want, PPE required, this will now flow through onto every rec that's written using this mix. And then you can put in things like your target mix or what your target is, target pest. And the value of doing this is this becomes a search box. So when you're writing a rec, when you're creating a plan, you could say, oh, what are all my options for burn downs? And now, because that's in as a target pest or disease, that's going to become searchable. And this is kind of a poor example with it being burned down, but you could put something like kochia, ragweed, and that is then searchable, easier to find your mixes. Similar concept here is you can assign this to a crop, and then as you're creating a plan, running a rec, and you search oats, this will be one of the mixes that becomes available in your list. So with that, that's kind of some basic setup on the mix, but we can start to add our products. So I want to put, I've got a couple products here I'm going to add, and what you'll note is I can just keep searching and clicking and then add this all in the mix at once is kind of an efficient way to do that. So I will add in glyphosate. I have a Diablo herbicide here, and then a Firezone I'm going to put in. So with that, I have a series of products I'm putting all within this mix, and if I click add, it will populate those into the mix. I can adjust the mix order if I'd like. A common question we get, FarmQA does not automatically sort these products based on the labels and a known mix order. So you are kind of responsible, if you will, to adjust these and put these in the order they should go in the tank. They will be saved. So like, let's say you set it up once, then that order is fixed in our system and will get pushed forward into the future. So from here, I'm going to adjust a couple rates. So on this mix, I want to go down to 3 ounces here. Actually, I'm going to go to fluid ounces. And glyphosate will go to 32. And yeah, we're going to go 3. So with that, I've got my mix kind of tailored to be this oat pre-emerge burn down. And you can continue on and build up a series of mixes like you see here in my demo account, where I've got kind of my prepackaged mixes, and you can think of those as individual spray passes or individual steps within a plan. So we've got the product list, we've got the mixes. Now finally, kind of on to new functionality would be on the plan templates. And so this is what would be new to most users watching this. What you're seeing here is I have a series of plans pre-built. And so on the left-hand side, I can click through and I've given these some names around barley, high yield, low yield. But what to note within here is that there's steps. So those are the components of a plan. And so in my case, I've got a pre-emerge, post-emerge for the barley plan. Within that, I can add instructions to each step, along with instructions for this whole mix, or sorry, the whole plan itself. And so what we'll do as part of this is we'll walk through creating a new plan from scratch. And again, this is a plan template. So this will eventually be used to mass apply to a series of fields. And so with this, we're going to call this my oat plan. And as far as naming goes, you can give this a name of saying, plan A, or you could say high yield plan or high disease. So it's up to you how you want to label that, but it will be your naming convention will be handy when you go to actually applying this to fields to refer back to when you want to use this plan. So you can assign this to crop. Again, we'll go to oats, so it's more of a filter option. Now with this, I've got my organizational tree. You can create plans that are specific to growers. And so you could say this oat plan is specific to Jim. He likes to use a lot of whatever specific retailer he might prefer. And with that, that might dictate what your plan looks like. The other option is you can make this generically available across all users, across all growers. And so that would be grabbing the top level of your organization when you're creating the plan. So that's what I'll do in my case. That's what I want to make more of a generic oat plan. Now from here, you can start to add steps. So add steps, you get two options, from a pre-built mix or from a blank step. So if I go from a mix, in this case, I pre-built out that pre-emerge. And so this pulls up my mix list, which I had just shown you on the prior screen, but I can search this. So let's say I go oats, pre-emerge, burn down. And so again, I can search oats. I could search, I'll go burn down. And so a couple different options there, but eventually we can preview this and say, yes, that is indeed the step I want to add in here. So it takes that entire mix and builds it in as a step. And I can then relabel this to say, I don't really need to say oats anymore because this is specific to the oat plan. So we'll just call it pre-emerge. Oh, I am a great speller. We'll just go pre-emerge burn down. Now within this, we can adjust to say, my mix had these products or these rates. Maybe I want to adjust this and go to 2.5 ounces here. Now that does not impact your mix. That's specific to this oat plan that you can start to tweak these rates. You can adjust the order. So there's a little drag option over here. You can delete out entire products and add new ones back in, adjust the rate. So again, all this at this level is specific to this oat plan. And then I can add additional instructions here if I'd like. The other option is you can add a blank step. So in this case, let's just add in a new step. And in this case, we're going to call this the in-crop pass. And I can then add products from scratch. So instead of this list being my mixes, this is individual products. And I could add in, we'll do clean sweep, and I've got a fungicide I'm going to put in here as well. So I add those in as products to this individual step. Again, the concept of editing, adjusting is all there. You can click on that little eye or information icon and see the product details. A nice factor here is to say, well, I know on this one, I want to default this to a different rate. If I click on clean sweep, that will actually pull us into that product. So clicking on clean sweep, it will pull us over to that product here. And then you could see the details or adjust your default, save it, go back in your plans. So just a quick link to the product details. So with that, I've got my oat plan. We'll come back in here, and I'm going to go 10 ounces on this again, save this out. And then with this, I'll do one final step. I want to do a flag leaf pass, and we're going to add in a bulk here. And then we could add in a surfactant here. So now we've got these products in. I do not have a rate, so you could set, this would be what it looks like if there's not a default rate on this product. So I can go to 12 ounces, and we'll go 10 gallons again. So with that, I've just built up this oat plan, pretty simple, 3 steps. Now, one thing that is new, so this would be kind of existing functionality with those mixes. On your plan, if you want to do seed planning, breaking down by variety, we do have a way to do that now. Now, granted, as I show this, we know there's room for improvement on the seed side, and we've got some feedback here that we can discuss at the end. But what's new here is you can come in and add a new product and actually add oat seed as a product itself. And that will allow us to do product totals. And if you're a longtime FarmQA customer, you'll notice that seed is a new type within your list. So you might want to add your seeds to create one product type for corn seed, one product type for soybean seed, etc. Don't break it down by variety at this level. We'll do that automatically in the plan. And that'll make a little more sense as I show the output. But for now, we'll add in oat seed. I can put in my seeding rate. So we'll say that this is, let's say 9 pounds per acre. I think that's a logical rate. I'm not an oat guy, but we're going to take a guess at that. So we got 9 pounds per acre, and we'll say this is $12 a pound. Those could be totally off, so don't criticize me if they are. All right, so got that saved out. Now, if we come back into the plan, if you want to add in seed as an input step, the best way to do that is, first of all, you could just do the chem plan. That's kind of the example I have here. But to do the seeding plan, you could add in a step, and we'll just call this seeding or planting. And as part of that, you can add your product in that is oat seed. So now if I add that in, I've got that as 9 pounds an acre. A little tip here is that you can drag these whole steps around. So like in my case, I added the seeding step last, but I really want it to be kind of right at the beginning. Well, we'll say it's the first step. So now within here, the other thing I would say is that some people are also putting in, like if you want to go mid-row band a fertility product, you could put that in along with your seeding step. And so that's how that would look if you wanted that in here, so it can all fall together and get totaled up. So with that, that's the seeding side. And then on the fertility side, this again is a piece where we know there's room for improvement, but you could say I got fall fertility. And with this, there's kind of 2 ways right now, or maybe 3 ways you can do this in FarmQA. And it goes back to how you set up products. Right now, a lot of people are setting up just urea, your final product itself, and putting in actual pounds you need. So urea, potash, MAP as products in FarmQA. Or you can go down into, you can put blends in here, like a starter blend. Now with that, you might have, your product list might get quite large with the number of starter blends you build out. But just know that those are things that you can play with. And the third option, if you just want to look at more actual pounds of NPK, you could put those in as quote unquote products and then put pounds needed of each product. So that's kind of the options there. And we're going to improve this for the future to actually pull in lab results to look at your needed deficit of NPK and come up with the needed products to come up with that. So that's in the future. That's kind of walk before you run on this plan side. So there's urea. We're going to put that in. We're going to put in potash. And then with that, you can set some rates to say the default, I'm going to bank on 150 pounds an acre with this. And then potash, we're going to go with 100. So now with that, I'd say, like our core functionality here is around the chem side, but the seeding side, you can add as a step, and the fertility as well, you can build into your plans. So with that, that is a plan template, and a quick little nice feature here is we'll put this instruction here to say this is for yields in 90% range. You could duplicate the entire plan. So right here, I could duplicate this and call this my oat low yield plan. And so with that, you could say this is for your average oat field. So whatever instructions you want to put in here, that's kind of the concept that we have built in. The other thing is we do summarize your ingredients, your mode of action groups, broken down by this icon fungicide, this icon herbicide. So you can look across this plan what group numbers or what mode of actions you're targeting with each plan. Moving on, so now you can start to assign these templates to fields. So with that, we've got within the Fields tab, a planning option. So the third tab, again, new to most FarmQA users. Within here, I've got some existing plans, but you'll note that it's on a prior year. So I'm going to start fully from scratch within this 2024 temp season. So to do that, I have the ability to create a new plan, and I'm going to call this, actually I'm going to break it down by grower. So say Minnesota Farms is one of my growers, and then I'm going to do this within the 2024 temp growing season. So this creates a plan, and what we mean by plan, let me turn off the, yeah, that's fine. So what you can see here is the ability to customize this grid as what I was showing. So if you do want to turn off columns, like maybe you don't care about area in this case, or maybe we'll turn off the 2024 season there. So now you can see the prior year's crops. So as I scroll to the right, each column is a year. And if I tap on the header, that sorts it by that year. So it's a nice rotation view that you can be looking at. And I would say most commonly, you could just be using the most recent years, so 2023 in this case. I'm going to turn off 24 temp. There you go. So now within this, you can click on an individual field. And what that allows you to see over here on the right-hand side is you can start to see the history of that field. So as you're planning, you might want to refresher back to what have we done in the past? What have we applied? when it was barley in a prior year. So you could see the by season 23, 22, 21, what was sprayed with the totals. And you can also view the yield data. So I set up my plans with some that said high barley yield, low barley yield. Well, you might want a quick refresher back to see what should I set as a yield goal, or what am I thinking I could achieve with this field. So this little triangle is telling you where this field sat with versus a min and a max range. So 68 bushels on barley in 23, and it was 28 tons beets in 2022. So just some quick access historic data there. Now within the plan itself. So within this view, I can see my prior year's crops, and some of the main actions you can take is over here, I can grab all my corn fields, and let's say I know that those are going to invert and get planted into maybe soybeans this year. So I can preview my plan. So what I did there is I clicked on the down arrow to the right of the plan, and now I previewed as a refresher to say, oh, what do I have in this plan before I want to assign it? And I could be clicking through and seeing the rates, the product details by clicking on any one of these cells to get a refresher on what rate I use for a bound, for example. And you can expand this out if you want more real estate here, horizontal real estate. You can be dragging this out to be seeing that as a larger panel. But now the key function here, I can click apply, and that will apply the soybean plan to all these selected fields. Two things here is you can assign this as without specifying a variety. So if you don't know what variety is actually going to be planted, you could say I know it's soybeans, don't know the variety, then go unspecified. The other option here, it would be if I grab, let's say my beet fields, I know we're going to go into corn. This time I do want to choose a variety, so I know that these are all going to go into a specific variety. So I assign those. So that would be a way if you want to break out and get into the seed variety conversation, you could assign that actual variety here if you want to do that. So that's one function. And as we get into this, we know we have a lot of customers that really like our map view for mass assigning crops and varieties. What you can do is you can actually first assign crops on the map and then come into planning and just start bringing in your plans for product. And so note that it's possible. If there's questions on that, I can showcase that scenario as well. So from here, I'm going to continue on with my plan and just fill out a few more details. So we'll say we're going to do a couple of these fields into a canola. And then as I'm doing this, you notice at the bottom some pie charts getting created. So this is just some quick summary views across the fields. So let's see if I got that old plan I created. We'll apply that as well. And let's see what else we want to do. Maybe we'll stick with that for now. So now we've got a plan broken down here. Maybe I'll grab a different variety on these 3 corn fields to show the variety view. So within this, the pie charts, as I was mentioning at the bottom, show a couple things. We got 24 fields in this plan for this grower. If you hover over that pie chart, you see a breakdown of the number of fields going into each crop. You can see the total acreage that's being accounted for here. You can see the area total breakdown across these crops as well, and then a total price breakdown. So just a quick summary view there. Now what you can do within each one of these steps is to say, if I want to expand out field 247, within here you can start to add field specific details. So you can drag this out and you can say on this field, make sure to seed around the drainage ditch. So whatever you want to put in here, it's just an open text box that's going to flow through onto the plan for that grower. The other thing you can do is with these plan templates. So far I have these canned templates for oats, for corn, all different crops, and I've bulk applied those. But I'm guessing, for a lot of, particularly on the fertility side, you need to customize the rates. And so the default on this field was 200 pounds. If I click on the edit step, I can now say this field, I need to go to 190. So you can put field specific details in and make field specific edits. And now the plan is updating with totals around that edit. So you can go field by field and be making those adjustments. But the concept of the mass assign of the templates is where the time savings comes in to get you started. And then you make fine tune or fine level adjustments here. So with that is the kind of the creation of the plan. The other thing I would mention is over here, this is the area we have of the boundary. But throughout FarmQA, you can override your acreage. And so let's say you know that the planted area here of this is 130 acres. If I type that in, my plan will now be based on that total when we do the math. So it's kind of fine level adjustment. But as I adjust that acreage, this number did decrease a little bit because my acreage came down. And then you can reset that to say, no, that wasn't intentional. You can reset back to whatever the boundary size is. So within this plan, we've done some assignments. Now you can click over between these other tabs. So the product tab in this case will give you that shopping list that I referenced in the intro that you can take to a retailer. So the intention here is each row is a product. You can sort this. You could say, just show me a breakdown of my adjuvants, my fertilizers, my fungicides. So this is sorting, but you could actually filter as well to say, just show me my fungicides. And now that list will restrict down. Now within this, you've got a couple things that you can do, a couple actions you can take. So within this, the pricing has been brought through from the product, the mix to the plan, and you could have been adjusting that price along the way. But what we've heard from customers is more commonly they want maybe some default pricing in here to get a ballpark number. But then within here, you can double click and start to enter in your price. So you could say, I'm getting this for $13. I'm getting this for, and again, I'm totally making these numbers up. But you can be typing in your values, and then the pricing down here will adjust as you're making those changes. So real time kind of tweaks on that, those values or the pricing. And then from here, you can also click on the crop tab, and this will break down you saw me put in a couple of different corn varieties. So this would break down how many areas of each variety you've got, total quantity. So in this case, total bags needed, price per bag, and then with that, your total cost, your seed cost. And so along with any one of these plans, you can be exporting this out to a PDF or to Excel. And so for the grower, note that they can log in, they can see this plan. And so just a quick refresher on that, if you add a user in a FarmQA, they can be set up as a grower, and they could get access just at their farm level. So let's say this is Ben, and I click save. Now they could be logging in, viewing their plan digitally, and putting in their pricing. They could kind of provide their feedback to consultants. And so that's kind of our value here, is the back and forth of the plan with the consultant versus the grower. So going back into that plan, so now you've got this view, and I talked about the different tabs in here, how you can use those, view those. Note that you can pull in columns in and out. So if you want, like a cost per acre column is hidden by default, but you could add that in, and now you can see the cost per acre that you're spending on a bound or Acheron, whatever it may be. And so that's just a different view if you're interested in seeing that. But you can also significantly clean this up to say, I just want to show product, I want to show total quantity, and I want to show maybe the total cost. So now my grid is simplified, just 4 columns, and I can export that out. So what the export looks like, so within here, we've got a couple different options. You can customize the PDF. So if you want to hide the pricing and you just want product totals that they can take to the retailer puts their pricing in there. That's what this toggle is doing for you. You can include all field plans or just get the roll-up total. So with that, if I uncheck this, you'll just get this summary table in a PDF. If I do check this, you'll get the summary table plus a page per field of your plans. So if I click on that, I've got a plan exported out. So you can see down here, this is that summary sheet I was just telling you about. So kind of a cover sheet to start with. You can see this is my plan and whatever your plan name was. So if you had plan A, plan B, plan C to compare, you can see that breakdown. The products, the crop details is going to be a separate table. Again, that's where I could break down to variety, number of bags of seed there. And then I mentioned you could go field by field. So this field is called sampling example. This field is called 278. So it's going step by step what each field is going to have. And so you can see it's a long document in this case. The other export we have would be if you want to push that same data but into Excel. So that would be an export here. I think I've got back in this one, better example. So now in the Excel format, it's essentially the same data, but it's broken down in 3 different tabs. So if that's a way that if you want to do some additional math on your data, you could do that in here easily. So here's that cover page with all the summary data, the crop plan details, and you got a price per acre on that, the seed cost and the total cost, and then the field details. So what this will be is each row is a field and your cost for that field. And so you can do more sorting on this, grouping by crops within Excel, depending on what you want to showcase. So with that, that is some of the outputs, and the same thing on the crop side. You could just export that, just the crop tab itself. So I mentioned briefly that you could create different plans. So within this, you could create a second plan that's called, Munson Farm Plan B, Plan C, and that way you can be looking at the total cost breakdown if you have a heavier corn year or a heavier barley year, and looking at the cost differences. Now the question might come up, we don't really have any built-in digital comparisons between models. It's more or less toggle between them within the plan tab to say view the details here, view the details here, etc. That is also a place for improvement in the future where we see ourselves putting in more of a true comparison across plans, just for your reference. So this would be the stage where we could say we're sitting down in January with a grower, we've viewed our plans, the grower gives a thumbs up and said, this is the plan we're going with, and they make their purchasing from the retailer. Now we'll kind of fast forward and say the plan has been signed off on by everybody. So what we're going to do here is we're going to commit this plan. So what that does in this case is note that even though I'm doing all these assignments, notice that my 2024 temp season is still blank, meaning there's no crop assignments. So that plan is essentially like a draft. So nothing really gets committed until you say commit plan, and then we'll rip through and do all those crop assignments and push those plans to the fields. So within here, the Minnesota Farm Plan, I'm saying it's time to commit this. And it's going to tell me, okay, you got 24 fields that you're about to commit. And I say, that looks great. So now, as I committed that, note that this was just for Minnesota farms. So not all my fields will get crops, but just the east side here, the Minnesota side. So if I go back to the map, now we see that all those assignments just got pushed through, and we can see the breakdown on that. A couple things to note here is that within the Fields tab, there's a new plan column. And so that's going to see what plan you had set up for that field. Clicking on that allows you to see those steps. You can jump over to that plan. So this would take you into the plan details itself over here for that plan. You can take some action from that plan from here. So that's kind of the next big piece of planning for us, is to say, you got through the winter planning, we signed off on the plan, we committed it. Now we're going to fast forward and say we're sitting in May 15th, we're sitting in June 1st, and we're going to activate some of these steps in the plan. And so with that, there's quick access, like I mentioned here, to view these steps. You can click on the cells to see the product details and the rates that you chose. You can export the individual field plan from here if you want. And so this would be just that one field would get exported if you click that button. So the other thing is, we know people live off the map view, and so just to showcase that information is on the map as well. So if I zoom in, click on one of my corn fields, there is a new tab within your field detail pane called Plan Progress. And so if I expand that out, it's the same view we had in the list view, and you can collapse that down depending on how you prefer to see that. But then the key thing here is you can start to take action on that plan. So what that looks like is there's a couple options, and what I will say here to begin with is that we can do this on the mobile side as well. So I will be showing that in a minute, and that's maybe the more common method. So you may have that question in your head, and we're going to address that. So first of all, let's say you did your spring fertilizer. A couple things you can do with that is you can just mark this as complete. So just from a checklist standpoint, saying, okay, have we completed everything on every field? You can just say, yep, I completed that. I applied the urea at 250 pounds. That's done. Now, when it comes around to planting, you can do the same thing. You can say, mark it as completed. You can still edit this to say, okay, well, we had the plan, we bought our seed, but I need to tweak this for the records to say, what my seeding rate was. So that edit still pushes back to the plan, and we'll update there. But let's say now we've seeded. The other thing to call out is you can say it's time to take that step of that pre-emerge and turn that into a recommendation that you can send out to the grower, or that you can then dispatch on that. So from this corn pre-emerge right now, that's just a bound at 6 ounces, a pretty simple step. A bound in Akron, totally made up. But you could say convert that to a recommendation. So there, with that, you can see that it pulls in the details of the plan, puts it into a recommendation. So the reason I'm calling that out is because you can still adjust, let's say, the rates on this. You could adjust the products. You could say, well, I plan to put Acheron, but now I'm going to swap in. I'm going to swap in and add a different product of whatever it may be, placenta. So now I can add this, and it created a rec. And so that what that'll do is you can see it's kind of this in-between stage of you went from the plan to the rec. Then when you actually spray that field, it will turn green once that spray has been completed. So with that, that's just a way to, we see it as a big time saver to creating recs, writing recommendations, is doing it based on the plan. So with that, let's jump on the mobile side. I think that's probably a more common use case here. And I'm going to sync because I added that new growing season, so I'm going to let that get pulled in here. And again, be putting your comments in the question box here, as we'll get to those shortly. Within the mobile app, I've got on the top right my growing season. And if you remember, I did this all within 2024. Temp was the year I put I did those assignments in the plan. And keep in mind, I just did this Minnesota farm. So just this farm has the plans in it as of right now. Within this view, I can zoom in, I can click on a field, I can see everything I did. So this view is the same. The big key component here, well, actually, let's go through the flow and say we're scouting, we say flea, beetle, pressures is high, time to spray. So we'll make that comment. Now, traditionally, you've come in here and written a rec from scratch, if you will. And what we heard from customers is to say, I don't write recs. We just refer back to the plan. We say, we just execute on the plan, and the scouting is more about just the timing of that plan. And so that was really our intention here, to say, okay, you don't have to write your rec from scratch. You still can if you want. But then within here, you can pull up the drawer. So what I did there is I just clicked on the bottom, this little handle, and it pulls up your plan. So from here on the app, real time, you're in this field standing and saying, okay, well, here's our intention for the year. And like I did on the web view, there's the ... menu. And this is where I can take steps or complete steps. And so I can complete this. The one thing I didn't show on the web would be if you want to skip a step. So within your plans, we have customers that are building out different application options. So let's say for this field, it's corn. Maybe you've got an optional fungicide, but you may not need this. So let's say for this field, we're going to skip this fungicide. So what that'll do, it doesn't necessarily delete that from the plan. So there's still that breadcrumb trail. There's still that record log of saying he had an optional fungicide in there and we did not need it. And so it allows you to kind of compare back to saying, maybe you got some extra product left in the warehouse. Where did that come from? It tracks back to that plan step getting skipped. And so that's what that little fast forward button looks like down there. And so, yeah, that's one thing I forgot to call out on the web view. But the kind of key component here is now, if you need to write this recommendation, now you go new rec. And again, pulls up those product details from that plan. You can still tweak it here, just like we did on the web, to adjust, let's say, the rates, to swap in products. You can view those product labels, just as a refresher there. So now you've got the what was this label? Acheron label here, and make adjustments. But now I can put in my dates to say, okay, now it's time to actually do this. So it's all about the timing of saying finish on the 15th, submit that. And now, again, that step will be in progress, meaning we've taken that first action, and you can then create a task on that. So if you're sitting here and you're just a consultant, you may not use this side of the program, but this is a pretty nice tool to get the growers engaged, get the growers involved. Maybe you work with a custom applicator. Maybe you're the farm manager yourself. You can take that and create a new task. So with that, in my account, I've created 3 different categories for spray tasks. So I've got an aerial application, I've got just a chem application, fertility application, and these are task categories. So let's say I do chem application. And within this, you can assign dates to the task itself. So again, we'll do the 15th. You can assign this to your applicators. So in my case, we're going to assign it to me as the applicator, and we're going to say, don't screw up, Ben. And now we'll say, I'm going to put webinar in here so I don't forget. So now I can create this. What that'll do is that created a work order for myself, and where I can access that, this work tab down here, I should see that one spray record for myself saying I got to spray this. If I click on it, I see the details. So the notes down here, I see dates around when I should spray this. I got to get this done by the 15th. I can add my own notes into this task. So I could say wet on west half. I couldn't get it there. Save that out. So you can view the rec details. So me as the applicator, I can pull up that recommendation and I can see that before I go spray, or have that up here to load my tank, my sprayers, to know what rates and totals I've got. But now I can go with that arrow, I can jump into the field, I can navigate. So this little arrow icon would take me into the option to navigate to that field based on my location. And then I could actually spray that. This is kind of more on the task module side, which if you're watching this, we've got other webinars on the task system itself. I'm just kind of showing how this links into the plan as well. So now from that, let's say we sprayed the field, you can complete that. We're actually, and this is teasing out a new feature, we're adding in a more formal spray record input form on the mobile app here for 2024, where you could actually track your applicator details, start stop time, adjust if you put slightly different products or rates in. But regardless, we can complete that out. And now I've completed that. My work list is clean. And now I should see on the field a green check mark next to that field. So it's a way that you can move from a plan to a rec to a work order to a spray record in FarmQA, all pretty simultaneously. So within that, you'll notice in the advice, I've got that recommendation, which I just wrote. And then I've also got that spray record, which I just completed on my side as well. So that's just kind of showing the back end proof of that paper trail. And then you could generate a roll-up report across that all your sprays if you need to get a view of what's been sprayed across your whole farm. So with that, and just for reference for others as well, as we do track, let's go here, you can see we'll put in temperature, wind speed, direction, and time of application. So that's all part of the completion of the task, the completion of the spray process. We reference back to our weather source, which is Aris Weather, and then that will automatically get included with that spray record as you're seeing here. So with that, that's kind of the flow you're going through in season real time. Your plan steps are being completed. You can see that at any time. You and the grower can refer back to that and see where are we at in the steps in the process. And then with that, you could have the grower be putting in their plant dates, the varieties as part of that step in here. And then within the grander plan at year end, you can refer back to it and say, okay, on these fields, what field was I on there? It was 115. You could see, go kind of step by step, say, did we complete all these steps? Where are we at on our cornfields? And more of a summarized view of the progress of your plan within the broader plan view here. So with that, I think there's going to be a fair number of questions. So we're going to jump over to questions. So if you got them, go to Teams, go into the chat box and ask your questions. But beyond that, if you want to use planning, reach out to us, support@farmqa.com, and we'll get this turned on for you as a feature. And we're going to be rolling this out shortly to everybody. So with that, thanks for joining, and we're going to look for questions here, and I'll address those as they come.